we are lucky here. We are with our great Mayor Krantz right now, who served this community, Milton, for the last more than 60 years. As a mayor, he's our mayor for the last almost 46 years, since 1980. And he was elected as a councillor for the first time in 1965. And we are lucky that someone with that experience and vision is our mayor. Just we are here to have a chit chat. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, thank you, Khurshid. Thank you very much for your interest in, interviewing me and attempting to find out what makes an individual like me tick. So I really do look forward to our interview, and of course, hopefully sharing with the wide world out there. So what you and I are going to be talking about in the next short while. So thank you, and a great big welcome to the mayor's office here in the town hall in Milton.
Basically, what it is, my Miltonians, they want to listen you. They want to know about you. That's why we managed some time to meet you, and thanks for giving us time. And the question I would ask, these are just a simple chit chat, maybe with the family, we will talk about your family as well. In the past, I met Olive as well.
Yeah.
And you are so humble person. And it is a general question, what inspired you to come to the public service?
Yeah, well, first of all, you had mentioned my late wife. We were married for almost 67 years, and she was one of my biggest supporters. Even though she did not care for politics, she had a lesser affection, believe it or not, for politicians, because she's seen, sometimes the abuses you take. And of course, when you're in this business, you are going to get criticized, because if you're not criticized every once in a while, you're really not doing your job. And it's as plain and simple as that. But getting back to the question that you ask, what motivated me to run for office back in 1960? It was my big mouth that got me into trouble. I told the story on several occasions. It started in a barber shop. Well, let me assure you, us guys are just as bad, if not worse. What I was doing there, I was criticizing, I was chastising, the people that were running the town of Milton at that time. They should be doing this and they should be doing that. And of course, somebody had enough nerve to say, well, if you think you can do any better, why don't you run? That person was absolutely right. Put up or shut up. And I was not prepared to shut up.
Yeah.
And here I am 60 years later, you've already alluded to, trying to make life just a little bit better for people like you and me, and the roughly 160,000 plus people in Milton now. So that's really how I got into this business. It was never high on my bucket list to be involved in politics back in the 60s. I was in business in town here, and I was reasonably well known as well, and quite involved with, charities and, volunteering and stuff. And so I ran, and like I say, the rest is history.
Basically, when I did door knocking in 1922 and before, almost 5,000 houses, and most of the people, they embraced you, and they appreciate you, and they know your vision. So
well, I take what I do very, very serious, and I believe that most people know that. And most people look for stability.
So how you think your vision has evolved about Milton so far?
Well, part of my vision was when I first got elected as a councillor, always to have Milton go ahead. Now, when I was first elected as mayor in 1980, believe it or not, most people aren't aware of this. We actually lost population on 2 official Canadian census, not major. We would lose one census 200 or 300 people. The next census we lost 300 or 400 people. So that means you're going backwards. And I never ever wanted this community to go backwards. And even though we had a pretty stable property tax base at that time, as we still have to this very day, you either move forward or you go backwards. You can tread water for so long, stand still for so long, you either move ahead or you move back. So I've always kept this municipality moving ahead. And that's still my vision to keep this municipality moving ahead, not only population-wise. 20 years from now, we're talking right now, 2026. 2051 is the target right now. Mountain's population will be pushing 400,000. Really what's going to happen. So be prepared for growth, and things are going to change. Things never stay the same. Mountain is an inland community. What's critical to the service of any community is water and sewer. Mm-hmm. And that was critical. So believe it or not, a good portion of Mountain now is serviced with water up from Lake Ontario and sewage back down to be treated in Lake Ontario. And again, an inland community, we're roughly 12, 13 miles away from Lake Ontario. So that was a very costly project on putting that in. I'm talking about $1999, $2,000. $2,000 at that time was roughly $100 million. So that was a lot of money, but we eventually did it. So that's how all that involved. And that was part of my vision. That's still part of my vision on moving this community forward.
Oh, you have done so many projects in your life. It's a long journey. So I won't ask too many things, but which one is you think the greatest achievement? Like you have done, you have just mentioned the piping, the sewer system. Is there any other project you want to mention?
Yeah, that certainly is one of the major ones, and one of the other that brought us national and international recognition. We were the very first to have a velodrome in Mountain Florida to support cycling, and of course we've hosted worldwide events here in Mountain. So that was another achievement, along with the provincial and federal government. So if you want to be successful in government, you have to partner and work with those other levels of government. And we do it very well here in the town of Mountain. And that's just a simple illustration there. And again, we've attracted millions and millions of square feet of industrial, commercial, institutional, because, a lot of thought and a lot of emphasis sometimes is put on growth, but sometimes growth is just thought about in residential, but you have to have that balance. Work, live, and play in the community is so important. So we've done really, really well on attracting those other businesses that I just alluded to. We've gotten our fair share of it. And again, it's because of the town of Mountain under, to some degree under my leadership and the majority of council support on making this, a great place to live, work, and play. And we get all those things going for us.
Yeah, you have done, and your team have done a very great job so far. That's why I chose Milton, and I moved with my family in 2011. And since then, Milton is my home, my whole family, and they like it. There are something like, for example, now the population is grown up around 160,000 in Milton, and around 60% Milton residents, they commute to the neighboring cities for work. What can we do here to create local jobs? So they can find local jobs and they don't need to commute on a daily basis.
Well, you mentioned that, and that is just the perception. Believe it or not, there's as many people that either drive or commute into Mountain to work that drive. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people drive out to work, but there's just as many people, believe it or not, and we know the statistics, that drive into Mountain to work. Now, I'll just give you a simple illustration that's just happening just in the last year or two. I spent a great deal of time, as you're probably well aware, on encouraging a university and or a college. And we've got both of them located here now, and they're just nicely getting started. But a lot of those students, as an example, are commuting into Mountain. And we have the automotive sector in the town of Mountain is a fairly large, sector here, believe it or not, with automotive related stuff. Most of those people, believe it or not, drive into Milton to work.
Well, I think you mentioned automotive, for example, Magna, Motor Tech, and the people around the town, cities, they visit here.
And we ask them for statistics, not to get into the business, but just their postal codes. And I would say, and I stand corrected on the numbers, but it's not too far off. If 100 people drive out to work, there's probably 90 people drive in. You'll find that's not too far off.
So which industry do you think it's economically better for Milton?
Well, our industry here in the past 10 years is really, really diversifying. It truly is. It truly is. There's a lot of high-tech industries here. And we've already spoke about the automotive and the automotive-related industry, which is a fair bit of it here. But oddly enough, or coincidentally, and don't ask me why, it's just because we're probably central to the major marketplaces, the food and food-related industries here. Like there's 2 or 3 huge freezer plants, cold storage plants here that are hundreds of thousands of square feet in capacity.
Garden food.
Those are just 2 to illustrate, and there's many, many other smaller ones that service, the greater Toronto and even the American marketplace, believe it or not, because Melton from the New York border, and we're talking about the Niagara Falls, New York border. We're only an hour and 15 minutes away from that huge population. 3 hours away from the Michigan border. So, within an 8-hour drive, we can touch 20 million people, believe it or not, from within our doorstep here. So, that's one of our advantages. And of course, if you don't run into traffic, you're only 20 minutes to half an hour, the most away from Toronto Pearson International Airport. The biggest airport there is in Canada is right on our doorstep, so that's an advantage to us as well. Not only that, we talk about transportation. Both CN and CP run through this community. There's a lot of communities just wish they had that type of transportation. We got 401, 403, Queen Elizabeth, 407, major transportation hubs. So this is a center of the universe as far as I'm concerned. I said that to some degree many times, tongue-in-cheek, of course, but this is where it's happening.
You are absolutely right. Like strategically, we are located like just beside Mississauga, Oakville, Burlington, in between. And on one side we have 403 and one side on 401. And nowadays, I really appreciate like 401. It takes only 20 minutes to airport. So one issue is common. Whoever is the Milton resident, they travel to go station all the time. They drop their kids for universities. They go to work to Union Station. So frequency of GO train, it is very less. So I know it is not a part of municipal responsibility. It's maybe provincial, but you have lots of link with the premier and all those. How can we increase the frequency of GO train, GO buses as other town like Oakville or Mississauga did?
Yeah, it's a work in progress. And of course, if you go back over even the last 5-10 years, we've made progress. And of course, you're absolutely right. It's a provincial jurisdiction, but individuals like me and councils can advocate and advocating for better and more frequent trains. And I can assure the public that will happen. And a lot of that evolves around population. You had mentioned Oakville as an example. That's the main line for the CN. The population along that line is pretty dense.
Yeah.
So the more population that we get in the Milton and the northern part of Halton, that will happen. And of course, it's a different line when talk about Halton Hills, and Halton Hills is going to be expanding too. So Milton is a fairly large rural community too. So that catchment area is a lot of people come here. So it's only going to grow and only going to expand. And I'm pretty well sure the public that frequency of trains, well, not only trains, but buses, even our own transit system has grown over the years. And we're criticized sometimes as well when the public sees some of our buses running around half empty or even empty. But there's still a lot, and our ridership has expanded over the last 5 years too. And I also know the trains that have expanded into the Milton area have expanded with ridership too. So it's a work in progress is what it is.
And one question which is very common nowadays, affordability is the main issue, right? Grocery prices very high, interest rate is high, mortgage payment high. So basically affordability is the challenge nowadays. And in the past 4 years, municipality has raised cumulative taxes like 40%. In this situation, 40% tax, and you just mentioned earlier during our conversation, like services live better this area. So the thing is, how can, with this challenge, how can we increase the services? Where I did door knocking earlier, people they were complaining about their recreational and other activities. The charges are more as compared to the neighboring cities. With the challenge of taxes, like 40% cumulative taxes, and how can we improve our services?
Yeah, and it's a very good question. Let me address the question. The majority of council has seen fit, and I'm going to correct you, and I use the 40% myself, and I've rounded it off. But to be accurate, so we're not misleading anybody out there, what has been approved in the past 4 years by this majority of this council, I should say, and I haven't been one of those supporters of that either. But majority has been. It's roughly 36%, a little wee bit over 36%, and that's not compounded either. So if you want to do some of the compounding, you're probably talking about 40%. But, levels of service, when you've got a growing community as we are, you're always playing catch up, and you always will play catch up. There's no question about when you talk about recreational services, as an example.
Yeah.
And I do know what I get quite often, regardless of where that person may be moved from. It could be from Mississauga, could be from Toronto, could be from wherever. Usually bigger communities where they have arts and theaters and everything. And they move from and again, I'll use Mississauga just to illustrate, where there's probably 700,000 or 800,000 people there. They got a pretty big base. Milton's population base right now is 160,000. So the expectations of 160,000 compared to 800,000 in the services is a little bit different. People move here for the most part for lifestyle. They don't get all of those amenities that you sometimes get in a bigger community. And tongue-in-cheek remark on my part, people move here in the town of Milton for love. And that's the reason for a lot of people. And the other part of it is, part of your question there as well, and I don't want to forget about, you talk about costs, and you had mentioned the price of groceries was. But what we do have some degree of control over is the taxes.
Yeah.
But the price of housing, price of homes in Milton, it's not cheap. And when I talk about people wanting to move to this community for a little piece of paradise, you pay for a little piece of paradise. Now, mind you, in the past few months, the price of homes have, decreased very slightly. They've not dropped dramatically, but I understand the real estate market has dropped about roughly 5%. So you talk about $1 million home. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, so it's still like the challenges are there. Job crisis, that what is happening with the tariff and all those, everything interrelated.
Well, I've often said, and again, our neighbor to the south, the great, America, it's a little challenging what's going on there now for Canada. And does it affect places like Milton? It definitely does. In all other, towns and cities in Canada. So it does have an effect on communities such as, and again, I'll just use as an example the city of Hamilton, who's one of our neighbors. City of Hamilton, their boundary is on the town of Milton. What about the steel workers in Hamilton that's really affected? So it has an effect on communities such as Hamilton, our immediate next door neighbor.
Yeah, so basically, when I was doing one project in Ottawa, my boss Douglas said about our neighbor, South and Canada, he said, we are two sons of same mother.
Yeah.
Like that kind of feeling we have about our neighbors. Yeah. And I think this should improve this.
Well, you'll go through those turbulent times in any government. And of course, we're going through that in a turbulent time. And I've got friends and family that's in the U.S. and it's a great country as far as I'm concerned. A lot has to do right now with the leadership. I'm talking about the government that's in power right now in the USA.
Yeah, we are passing through a very challenging time nowadays. Yeah. And what, you want to see, you have already achieved so much milestone in your life. So what do you want to see in the future? Now it is a multicultural.
Yeah.
and 160,000 population.
And I very much embrace that diversity and multicultural. That's what makes a great nation. And of course, I have to share with you, I was born here, but my grandfather, my dad's dad, just 2 generations away, he was an immigrant too. My grandfather, my dad's dad, immigrated from Sweden.
Yes.
So most of us, including myself, we come from immigrant parents, or in my case, I was born here. My dad was born here. So this country, thank God, is made up. Even our First Nations people are the only original people here.
Yeah.
That's what made this great country it is immigration. And of course, we've seen a fair bit of immigration in the last 20, 30, 40 years. As an example, I was born and raised in a rural community just outside of Milton, which it was a predominantly an Italian community. Believe it or not, someone with a name like Krantz, which is a German name, but I could speak and understand Italian. And I embrace, because, the kids that I grew up with, biggest majority were Italian. So I always embrace multiculturalism and the importance of it right from a very young kid. They spoke a different language than me, but they were still my friends.
Definitely, all the communities in Milton, they love you. They respect you, what you have done for them. And you are so humble person. I saw you you were installing your lawn sign by yourself.
I never, when you talk about that, I never ask anybody to do anything that I'm not prepared to do myself. And it's true.
I took a lot of time, but I want to ask you one question, which maybe my Miltonians, they want to know. You have already served as a mayor for the last 46 years almost, since 1980. So you want to make a golden jubilee, 50 years?
Well, the funny thing, you really asked me, am I going to run again? I've said many, many times, people will know approximately 6 months before any election. So I'll make an announcement probably in early April as to my intentions there. And the main reason for that is I take very serious what I do. Once you announce that you're going to run, you're on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
You're kissing babies and shaking hands and not paying attention to what somebody like me should be sitting in this office running a business. And I run this business first very seriously. The campaigning can come later. But the whole world will know come sometime in April what I intend to do.
Yeah.
I can share with you, I still enjoy reasonable good health.
Yeah.
I still enjoy what I do. So, that announcement will be made in April.
Yeah, I saw you during last session. It's still you participate. The reason to come here to have a chit chat today, I want to learn from you.
But I know that, the town of Milton, I suspect, the people in Ontario and in the region of Halton's well aware that you ran for office once before, and it's my understanding that you intend to run again. But, I never discourage, let me tell you, I never discourage. And I'm always a little cautious on even encouraging individuals to run for office because they have to do it for all the right reasons. The reasons why a person has to and want to run for office, they want to help the community.
Yeah.
And, and anybody that I chat with has got any interest at all, as long as you stick to those principles, you'll never go wrong.
Yeah, that's, I really appreciate you.
That's got to be a bit of a signature of mine because I've often said thumbs up signifies that it's the best, it's number one.
Yeah, so a lot of things good things I learned from you. One of them is this signature as well. And you are a humble person as well. For myself, I have a passion to serve. And I did so many projects in all over Ontario and Manitoba. So most of the issues, as per your experience, comes to the council, those are mostly technical in nature. So I think I could contribute something to help overcome.
There's one thing that I've often said. I do have a self-imposed CS, common sense. And as long as you use common sense, you'll never go wrong.
Yeah, you had a firefighting experience as well.
21 years as a volunteer firefighter.
Yeah. So thank you once again. So what legacy you want to leave after you?
That That was never, believe it or not, never high on my agenda. The only thing that I hope after I'm out of office, whenever that might be, is the average individual say Gordon did his best. That's really all that I care about. I just want to be seen as doing a reasonably good job. And if I leave that legacy, I'm happy. You know, and every once in a while I get asked that, and on the odd occasion criticized. I said, you know, heaven forbid the day that I ever become a dictator. It wouldn't be good for you. It wouldn't be good for anybody. You should not be a dictator, as far as I'm concerned. Democracy is pretty fragile as it is. All you need is somebody with superpowers that overrides, you know, a council. Heaven forbid that ever happens here. It'll never happen under my watch. Majority of councils rule. We talked about that before with the budgets that was passed. So at least 5 people had to support those increases that you and I spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
So, and thank God that we still have that system. So I have no intentions of being a dictator.
A lot of verticals are going on in the town nowadays. High rises, high density.
Yeah.
So congestion and population growth is
that's going to continue. You know, and I use this expression, going out. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
Going out is probably the order of the day. And I talk about now, I live in a single family home on a 66 by 132 foot lot. Those days are gone unless you're independently wealthy. Most people are living in reasonably nice homes on small lots.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people now are living in condominiums and high rises 20 and 30 and 40 stories high. And I think the highest Milton that we have now is cracked on the side of 30 or 32 stories high. Will that be the case in Milton 20, 30, 40 years from now? Probably. Because it's going to go up, not out.
Yeah, what we are doing for the infrastructure then for that to avoid traffic congestions then.
Well, you know, the traffic thing, and I'm sure you drove here in a car.
Mm-hmm.
But sooner or later, as time goes on, people like you and me are going to get out of our cars and we're going to use public transit.
Yeah.
So, you know, traffic congestion will not be an issue 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. We talk about GO trains, we talk about transit, we talk about buses. And believe it or not, evolution will get all of us, including you and me, if we're still around, out of our cars and into trains and planes and, you know, buses. That's the way of the future. Will Milton have a subway one day? But when you think about interconnection with places like Oakville, Burlington, Mississauga, we're seeing some of that now in Mississauga and Brampton. So don't rule it out. Now I'm thinking of 100 years from now. And the times are changing almost constantly. So if you don't change with change, change will change you. And that won't be for the better if you can't adapt to change.
We need to adapt the change. And the same time, like we need to work more on the infrastructure ready for future.
Sure.
What I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Happy New Year and a happy 2026. Yeah. And thanks to all those Miltonians out